The new trend is not so much to state ownership, but getting a fairer share of the rents. Countries that nationalized in the 70s or 60s did that to get a greater share of the rents, clearly, but also to try and do the linkages. Increasingly now, the rent share is being tackled through measures other than straight ownership. I think that's very clear in Chile, where the state company Codelco is only 1/3 of output, but it's 2/3 of government receipts, because it's 100% tax, obviously. They get all the dividends and the tax. So the other 2/3 private sector are only 1/3 of government revenue. This is a global study of global state ownership, state value at the mine stage, done by the Raw Materials Group using their global ownership database. And you can see there that it's kind of flattened, and if you exclude China, the lower line, then it is completely flat. So we can see that that phase of nationalizations from the early and high price period isn't being repeated. But what we do see is the share of rents has shot up. So basically, most countries are saying, well, to get the rents, we don't have to nationalize. How do we optimize the developmental impact as per the ANC policy? So what are these linkages in mining? We've identified that there are 5 critical linkages. The first, obviously, is fiscal. You've got to capture those rents and deploy them in long-term human and physical infrastructure for intergenerational equity, which is also something starting to crop up in the ANC documents. We can't just have this generation, us, swiping and living well off all the minerals and leaving our children and grandchildren with groot gats like Kimberley and nothing left. Spatial, mining puts in critical infrastructure. If we look at infrastructure in South Africa, railroad, energy, etc., it all radiates from us right here, from Gauteng. That was put in by gold. This is more important for other African countries where minerals still have the possibility of putting in infrastructure that other sectors that can then use beyond mining. In that sense, I think we have done quite well on the spatial, though we know the constraints that were mentioned by the earlier speakers, that the main constraint that we didn't enter the boom, particularly in coal and iron ore, as per Australia, were our infrastructure, investment in rail, investment in energy, investment in ports and terminals. The third are the backward linkages. These are critical. These are knowledge intensive. These are the ones that reinvent themselves in other sectors. These are capital goods, etc. And here we are on a backward march. We are losing these industries. We're supplying less than we used to. We have some great positive examples, such as Bell Equipment, Port Longyear, which Anglo sold a few years ago. It's now Utah. They sold to some group in Utah. And backward into explosives, etc. But that is being weakened because it is critically dependent, we found in all the countries, on investment in the knowledge linkages. And there we are on a massive decline. A rough estimate of the amount of people in R&D in minerals is that it was at liberation in '94 about 2,000, and it's now about 1/3 of that. The massive Chamber of Mines research organization that was 600 strong is no more. And we've seen the closure by BHP of the Joburg Technology Center. I think that was about 200. As we allowed the companies to go offshore, we have lost the key to the backward linkages, and that is HRD and R&D. When we asked the Finnish Institute of Economics, ETLA, what was the most important intervention they made in transforming themselves from a banana republic 30 years ago, exporting wood and minerals, to the most advanced economy in the world now in terms of internet connectivity, in terms of their PISA Maths and Science Index, etc. They went off, like Finns, they didn't answer immediately. They caucused and came back and said, if you want the one most important thing we did was engineers, engineers, and more engineers. They primed the system.